Yeah, man, sup, purples, man, I'm a Bless Beats. Absolutely legendary machine, this SP-303. This was probably one of my fourth sampler, I think. Very first sampler was the SP-202, which I barely used because I didn't realize it had no sequencer on it. I didn't know shit about samplers back then when I was like 11 years old. But after this one came out and all the hype about Madlib using it, I just had to get it. Lurking on the NPC forums, the SP forums, you know what I'm saying? I hold some dear memories with this piece, and now my guy 12-bit hooked me up with one again, and I'm thinking about holding on to this one actually just for the nostalgic value of it. Some noticeable figures behind the hype of the SP-303 include, of course, Madlib. Always some legends going back and forth about which tracks have actually been produced on the SP-303. Only a couple or 3 or 4 have been confirmed on the Madvillain album with MF Doom, but sure sounds like it's all over the place on that album. Another long-lived myth, J Dilla. There's one picture of him having it, at least, that I know of. I can swear it was there before. And there's a long-lived myth that almost all of Donuts was produced on it, which is not true, confirmed to be all Pro Tools in the book Dilla Time. Some motherfucker wrote a whole book about it. Sorry Dan, it's a very dope book. More modern day people, of course, the late great Ras G and DiBiase. DiBiase. Very dope. Let's check out how the SP-303 sounds and how you work with it. Alright, let us sample something in here to demonstrationalize the sound. We're gonna go with the original sample rate first. No light, no blink on this one. Make sure we set the input gain up so it's not clipping. Record. See what that sounds like? Pretty much what you hear is what you get. Let's try the first lo-fi setting, recording. I'm going to skip the actual sampling part. Lo-fi 1. Nice little degradation. Let's try the third one. Extreme lo-fi. Oh yeah. Editing the sample's actually pretty straightforward. We got a little air in the beginning of this sound. So the first thing I would do is set it to gate so it doesn't play all the way through. Use the mark button here to set the start point and the end point. So first just kind of calculate in your brains how long it takes until the sample starts and hit the mark. 1, 2. Little off. We can fix that later. Alright, and set the end point by pressing it again. Now, let's get rid of the air in the beginning of this one right here. Press this button and use the first knob here. And here's a nice little trick that I didn't know back in the day. I thought you'd actually have to truncate between each time that you want to further increment the start or end level, but you can actually just press the button again like that, go out and in, and now it's reset so you can go even further. At this point we have the start point locked in. Let's take care of the end point as well. For this, it is useful to enable the loop mode as well, to make sure that you have a perfect loop as it loops around. You can also make use of this reverse function. That way, we're going to start playing back the sample from the end. It's a little bit tricky sometimes to hear, depending on where the transients are at and shit like that. But we hear the first note that's not supposed to be in there, and we're going to trim it by pulling back the endpoint. And let's see how close we are by disabling the reverse and playing it all the way through and see if it loops nicely, and then do our final adjustments to the end level. Little bit before, I think. That's all right. Let's go out of there. And now we can cement this by truncating. Delete, mark the start and end points, and hit delete again. Just wait for like 10 minutes. See, this button's not lit up anymore. We can remove the gate if we want to. Play it back. We got a sweet loop, you know what I'm saying? Let's check out some of the effects on here, or at least the nice ones, in my opinion. The public favorite, vinyl sim. This one has a compressor, vinyl noise simulator, and some flutter. Sounds nicest when you have a bunch of samples playing on top of each other, like drums and shit. That'll really give it some character, like the beat you heard in the beginning of the video. But let's just try it out on this like right now. Quick tip, holding remain, you can choose which samples should be affected by this effect. Very nice. Now, my personal favorite, the highly flawed but very charming Timestretch. If we go into our time and BPM button right there, first knob will adjust the BPM. Having it all the way down is going to play back the original speed of the sample, but then we can also change the tempo of it. All the way up is going to play back at the tempo of the current pattern. Very characteristic for the 303. I love it. I really like the quirks and limitations of this machine, but it's mostly about aesthetics and nostalgia for me. But I do particularly like the very unique Timestretch, the vinyl sim, the lo-fi sound, and the way it pitches sounds. Which is why I made this plugin to satisfy my needs, you know what I'm saying? Check this out, Mr. Sample. Now this is not a complete emulation of the SP-303, just inspired by my favorite parts of it, but check this out. Pull any wave sample into there, you can edit it, start and end points, zoom in, zoom out. The best thing is if you already have an optimized loop, then you basically don't need to do anything. For example, like I'll drop this sample in, just set the beats up, that's 8 beats, so that's 2 bars. I already know that, and I got the BPM, and now I can do this.
I just can't seem to understand. Just can't seem to understand.
We got that nice warble there. You can even play it back in different pitches.
I just can't seem to understand.
Sort of like the SP, but sounds a little bit better in different pitches.
I just can't seem to.
Set up the grain size here.
I just can't seem to understand. I just can't seem to understand. I just can't seem to understand.
Find that sweet spot. We also got the lo-fi modes. This one is actually more like the lowest lo-fi mode on the 303.
I just can't seem to understand.
We can go further than that.
Understand.
And there's a reverse mode at each chop. You can see the chops right here. This is the order of the chops. So for each chop, it reverses it. You can also change the order of the chops. Randomize it.
I just can't see what I have to. What I have.
Set your range.
I just can't see what I have.
If you randomized it and you like this part, for example, you can move it over there. Set your range.
What I have to.
And now we're working with only that. And that's one of 12 different patterns that you can shift with the lowest octave or the C1 to A1 on your MIDI keyboard, pads, or pattern editor in the DAW. And these can be recorded as well. We got pitch per step in the playback.
What I have to.
And this one does push it a little bit more than the 303. We can go down to like 10 BPM. Mr. Sample will handle it. Yeah, you get the idea. We got the compressor. We got some tape hiss. Let's pull down the gain of the sample so you can hear just that. Crackle in the pot. Up to some high-passed hiss right there. Electronics disturbance and shit. We got the vinyl crackle. And we got the warped record. So very thrilled about this. If you like what you see in here, Check it out on my website. It's out today, 303 day, March 3rd. Other pretty useful effects, the Isolator, which will cut out highs, mids, or lows. Very useful for resampling, as well as all of these other effects. I'm not going to go through all of them. Probably check out somebody like Nonjuror or SP-vids who have lots of dedicated videos to this. But some honorable mentions are the Lofi, where you can fine-tune the sample and bitrate reduction a little bit, you know what I'm saying? The chromatic pitch shift, for this, usually I would set both of these settings to the same key, and you don't get a perfect pitch shift. You get also some of that time stretch with it, but in my opinion, sounds pretty cool. You can also use this pitch effect. This is a love or hate relationship. A lot of people don't like that you can just shift the pitch in a regular way, but I find this brings a lot of nice and gritty character to the sound. And you can experiment by resampling stuff. Speaking of which, if I wanted to resample something, I might go in there and do it right now, and it says full rather quickly. If you don't have a smart media card, you are going to hit a wall pretty quickly with the sample memory. So you can, 1, get a smart media card, or you can, number 2, delete something. And go grab a coffee in the meantime. When you're done with that, apply the desired effect. Hit resample, rec, press an empty pad, record. And now we can add another effect to that. So it's a lot of puzzling back and forth like this, but it's a rather meditative practice, in my opinion. You spend a lot of time with the sample, give it a lot of love and care, you know what I'm saying? Another note about changing pitch, I think it does work pretty well with one note samples. Like this bass, for example, right here. If I needed another bass note, and I could resample this and have a couple of different bass notes to play, I can use the pitch. You need to really use your ear for it because it does shift the pitch in sense. But with some creativity, all of these effects, these tools, you can actually put something pretty complex together. What about making a whole beat on the SP-303? When it comes to making a whole beat on the SP-303, it's a little bit of a divider there in taste, like the butt cheeks. Some people don't like to use the pattern sequencer. I rather enjoy it. All you need to do is hit pattern select, set your BPM up, use this middle knob to choose your burst party management. I'm going to go with 90. Go out of there, hit rec, and make sure first that you go into start end level and adjust that stabbing metronome level before picking which pattern you want to record to. Now from here you can set the length of it, 2 bars, and you can quantize it anywhere from not quantizing up to 16th notes. A little rusty on this one right here. Then when you're ready, just hit rec. Then if you want to go back and edit it again, you can just go to pattern select, hit record, hit that same pad. Go into delete and hold the pad that you want to erase to edit that part of the pattern, and sequence anything you want on there, of course. Or you could just have a drum pattern going like that, and then try to play a sample on top of that. Yeah, I would probably spend some more time either adjusting the timing and the sound of that sample or the tempo of the beat to go along with it, because right there, Timestretch is a little bit even too nasty with the clicks and pops. Not really the case with Mr. Sample. Copying patterns is a bitch, but it's possible. I'll just refer you to Nondrer for that. He has a great video explaining it. Basically, you need to back it up to the smart media card, move the original sample to another slot, load it back up from the memory card, and repeat that process with every copy of the pattern that you want to make. A little bit improved from the 404 SX and on. But once you get it down, it's not a big deal. Also, when you have a couple of patterns, you need to be precise with the timing when you're switching them. For example, check them out. Otherwise, it's going to be re-triggered from the start like that. Another nice little trick is we can use the Isolator effect, sort of like a live track mute. Because if we pull all of these down, obviously we're not going to hear anything at all. Holding remain, we'll see which of these pads that the effect is activated on, and those will consequently be muted. So let's play back a pattern right here, and we don't hear nothing. Then we can start by deactivating the effect. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of ways that you can work with the 303, and it's a highly competent machine for these kinds of minimalistic beats. I love it. I hope you got a nice injection of nostalgia from watching this video. If you're new to the machine, I hope you learned something about it. Happy 303 day. Okay, bye-bye.